yeah, we're live, y'all. I'm so excited about this one. Hey, Free Minds fam, you know I'm going to be hyped all for the rest of the night. So I'm super pumped to get the party started. Good evening to everyone around DC, the US, all of you guys' living rooms, and some of you guys working a late night shift, so you're watching on your iPhone. Because we know how dope Zoom links are. In a few tweets, they can like make this whole thing go global. So shout out to all of you guys for joining us tonight. Welcome to the Free Minds and Shout Mouth Presses. When you hear me, you hear us. Voices of Incarceration book launch. I love this name. When you hear me, you hear us. As I think about all of the amazing folks that are going to be a part of this evening. But I'll jump into that later. My name is Marcus Bullock, and I have the honor of being your host for tonight's incredible launch. Now, just as a heads up, this event is being recorded, so if you have any connectivity issues, you'll be able to rewatch the replay later. If you have any questions throughout the event, feel free to post them in the chat or in the box that says ask a question. We would love to know who's with us and why you're joining us, especially where you're joining us from. That's a big one for us. So please let us know in the chat. Now, for bonus points, if you hear something that resonates with you tonight, please take a picture of your screen or of the book if you have it, and then tag us in a tweet. Our Twitter handle is @FreeMindsDC. Now, we have an exciting event planned for you tonight with some of the most incredible individuals featured in this book. What I love the most about this book is that it's unlike any other Free Minds publication. This is something like that Free Minds has never done before. And I love it because they're not only amplifying the voices of Free Minds members, but of the entire community. This demonstrates the massive toll incarceration takes on each of us. Now, I know about this personally, having been incarcerated at the age of 15 and working my entire life since to connect people with their incarcerated loved ones. My company and app Flikshop is dedicated to using technology to break down the barriers and help keep people and organizations connected along the journey while they're incarcerated. I know from personal experience the impact of incarceration and how it has an impact on not just me while I was incarcerated, but also on my family, my friends, my basketball teammates, my pastor at church, my mother's friends at work. You see, I was a sophomore in high school when I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, and I carjacked a man in a shopping mall parking lot. I didn't understand the severity of the decision I was making at that moment. But after being sentenced to 8 years in adult maximum security prisons, those cold metal doors slamming shut, listening to COs yell out count time every day, those things will wake you up out of your 15-year-old world really, really fast. In fact, when I was about 2 years into my sentence, I realized that all of my dreams of graduating from high school, going to prom, or even just opening Christmas gifts with my friends, they were all gone. I got very depressed and I got dark. My mom made a promise to me to help keep me connected to her and the family with a letter or picture every day until I came home. Those micro doses of love, they helped me get a glimpse of what my future possibilities were. They got me through the toughest years of my life and eventually became the inspiration for my company, Flikshop. Flikshop gives the ability to our families to take a picture, add some quick text, press send, and for 99 cents, we print that photo and message on a real tangible postcard that is shipped to any person in any sale anywhere in the country. And Flikshop and Free Minds both believe that connection and community are essential. We all need to listen to each other's stories and hear directly from the people impacted by incarceration so that we can fully understand the harm caused by this system. We also want to unite to build a system that promotes hope, healing, and in my case, I needed to be able to make sure that we were helping to build a place where we had accountability. Now, let me take you through a slideshow of some of the courageous contributors who couldn't all be here, but tonight, they had an invaluable part in making this book possible. Within these pages, you'll hear from young people that were charged and and even incarcerated like I was as an adult in the criminal legal system. And you'll also hear from the community at large while they also talk about how it impacted their lives as well. You'll hear from a mother of an incarcerated son, a partner whose loved one was incarcerated and what that means for them and how it affects their love life. A woman whose family barely survived some gun violence, and that always strikes me when people like survive gun violence. Anyway, I'm excited to hear about that. We also want to hear from a man who grew up with his father who's incarcerated, an educator who uses creative writing to transform the legal system, the young people that they work with, and even those who have worked with public defenders, prosecutors, correctional officers, and even judges. Special shout out to our incarcerated contributors who could not be with us here tonight, but their words are here and they're here with us in spirit. I also want to send a very special thank you to my homie and my friend, KK Otterson, the amazing photojournalist who took these photos and did many of the interviews you will find in this book. To Ricardo Levis Morales for the cover art. Yo, that Jonas fire, Ricardo. And the whole team at Shout Mouse Press for amplifying these powerful voices. I promise you, with the amount of diverse voices in this book, there's no way you will be able to put this one down. This is the one that you'll be reading over and over as you grapple with these incredible stories mixed with these amazing poems. Now we're going to hear from some of our incredible poets, Cheleta, Rafael, Kelvin, and Craig, who are here tonight. They'll each be reading an excerpt from their own personal stories in the book, as well as poems from Free Minds members who are still incarcerated. Hey, Cheleta, do your thing.
Good evening. My name is Cheleta. I'm a poet and an activist who is passionate about telling stories of women that is in the system. I'm also a founder member, youth activist specialist for The Wire, which is Women Involved in Re-Entry Effort, a DC-based organization. And today I'm going to begin with an excerpt from my story. I grew up in prison. The older women guided and tried to protect me. I called them OTs for old timers, but they were like aunties. I think the experience of incarceration is different for women. There are more bonds with us. We are more emotional. We need something and someone. Women in prison provide that to each other. We also experience a different type of hardship. I've seen so many mothers crying after visits with their kids, or they haven't seen their child. They sitting there reading the letters, shaking and crying. They just want to touch their child. The hardest day in prison every year is Mother's Day. It's an eerie feeling. I don't think the justice system is adequately designed to meet the needs of women. There are way less programs provided for women in prison and also in reentry. There's an extra stigma in our society for women convicted of crimes. People still expect women to be soft and submissive. They don't understand a woman committing a crime or being in prison. I'm not feminine. When people find out I've been incarcerated, they start treating me like I'm hard. They don't see me as a woman anymore. I become something else. Who am I now? I've changed. I'm a person with emotions now, someone who actually cares about living. I value my life. I value my partner, my friends, and my family. I didn't used to feel like I had anything to live for, but now I do. I want to go as far as I can go in my career, to travel the world as a motivational speaker and to work with at-risk kids. I'll share my story with them, show them that I once where they sit now. You're going to remember this story. Now I would like to share a poem called Listener by a young man named Davon who is currently incarcerated. Listener by Davon W. There are things I can't tell my mother, so I come to you. I'll never tell my human friends because they don't listen as well as you do. The way you listen is like a kid with his ear to a seashell. You hear everything I say and the echo as well. I like the way you hold your water and keep my secrets in your head. Paper. That's why you're the best listener, because you never repeat what I said. I'd like to thank you all this evening for being listeners.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rafael Douglas. I've been a Free Minds book member since 2010. I got incarcerated at the age of 16. Is actually when I met Julia in Terror. I've been a Free Minds member since 2010. Thank you all for coming to our book release tonight. I'm going to read an excerpt from my part of the book, which is, let me read now. Excuse me. I was still at DC jail waiting to be sentenced when I was 18. I was on the phone with my grandmother when she told me my father had been sent back to DC jail and he was on the same unit as I was. At that time, they kept the two tiers separate, but I worked on detail and I worked on a midnight shift also to CO like me. So that night, she took me over and opened my father's cell. We hugged and we just couldn't stop laughing the whole time we saw each other. You can read the rest of the story in our book. When you hear me, you hear us. Now, I would like to share a poem by one of our incarcerated members, Timothy. This poem is from the perspective of an incarcerated father who is separated from his children. The poem is called A Poem from a Father to His Youngest Son by Timothy. The worst pain I've ever felt was looking at you. Reached for me through a video screen and I couldn't touch you. Right then, I knew what it felt like to die. A living death. Thank you all for listening. Now I'm going to pass it to Kelvin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kelvin Smith. At the age of 19, me and several of my friends were incarcerated for a crime we didn't commit. I spent 35 years of my life in prison. I came home in 2019. I've been a member of Free Minds ever since. I'd like to read something from the book. The murder was serious. This was the mother of someone we grew up with. Mrs. Fuller had babysitted a lot of guys on this case. It was so sad what happened to her. But never in mind did we thought we would be convicted of this crime. We thought the police would do the right thing once one of the detectives hung out in our neighborhood. A lot of those officers played basketball with us at the rec center and all that. This detective knew this wasn't in our character. There wasn't any ifs, ands, and buts. He knew this wasn't our character, but he didn't speak up about it. He went along with the people who falsely accused us of this crime. It was hard for me to trust in the law anymore. I just kept saying this lie isn't going to hold, but the lie held up. I would like to read this poem from a brother that's incarcerated. His name is CXS. The name of the poem is Human. I wear my hair short because you say so. My eyes see the light even when the darkness is found. My smile isn't sincere, but it's required. My eyes never hear you love me, even though they continue to listen for the sound. My shoulders are broad, so you know that I am strong. But my arms are weak because my pain is heavy. My chest ink covers the stories, the street tales, gunshots, and stab wounds are not fiction. My legs are tired of walking from one home to another, but my feet will walk off this earth for that permanent place of refuge. My back carried what was loaded onto it, but not asked for. This is what makes me human. I'm waiting for you to acknowledge the same. Thank you. Next up, Craig.
Good evening. My name is Craig. I'm the Free Mind Congressman John Lewis Fellow. I served 22 years, starting when I was 17 years old. I've been home 2.5 years, and I love to support the youth and my fellow free mind brothers coming home from prison. I'm going to share a bit of my story in reentry. You spend years dreaming of being free, and then you finally release. People act like your troubles are over, but the hard part definitely ain't over. When you're in prison, all of your decisions are made for you. They tell you what cell to go to. They tell you what you're going to wear. They tell you your bed number. When you release, that's when you find out you never knew a thing about responsibilities of being an adult. You find out that the skills you have learned in prison don't serve you at all in the outside world. I did not even know how to ride a train. I met up with my buddy and asked the security guard how do you put money on a card? He showed me. I saw other people hitting the thing and going through with their card. So I just copied what they was doing. Once I got downstairs though, it got real. I just stood there watching all these trains come and go and not knowing what to do. My buddy called me and was like, "Where you at?" I was like, "Man, I don't know which way to go." He told me to take a train to the Front Plaza. When I got there, there was trains going everywhere. Downstairs, upstairs, hundreds of people everywhere. Everybody was moving and knowing where they was going. They knew how to get downstairs, out the door, and upstairs, how to move. I did not know nothing. I called my buddy like 3 times, but he did not answer the phone. I did not know what to do. I panicked. I was afraid to ask anybody for help. My buddy finally found me. When I was with him, I felt safe. But before that, it was crazy. I stopped riding the train for a while after that. I'm about to also read a poem by a member that's still incarcerated called Today by Donna. I woke up today and I chose to love. I made a conscious effort to thrive today. I opened doors in multiple ways, but some just to walk through. It was humbling, walking without metal. I must get used to chuckling as I stumbled. I hugged a woman today, and she shed the same blood as I did. I did not cry either. I smiled. To hug her again, I knew would not be a while. I ate eggling Parmesan today. I wanted peppers, but I optioned to make it faster. Better I look after today. My vision, no limit. Today was cold. I chose to wear no jacket. Freedom kept me warm. Thank you all for joining us and showing your support. Back to you, Marcus.
Yo, this is dope. I love these moments. Yo, let's give it up for all these incredible, phenomenal poets. Please jump in your chat, show them some love in your chat. Cheleta, you're definitely going to be the motivational speaker that you aspire to be. Rafael, I can only imagine that moment that you shared with your dad, hugging and laughing with him in the cell. Kelvin, so sidebar, after spending 35 years in, you definitely get grace for like having a half a second or your Zoom call. So you're good. I'm just grateful to share space with you. And Craig, now for the 5th time of us sharing space together, it's definitely saying that I'm in a room with the right people. So I'm always excited to hear from you. Thank you to all of you for your incredible stories of survival, hope, and resilience. I believe personally that storytelling is where real change happens. When people ask me, like, how do you impact the world? How do you change legislation or policy? I tell them it really happens at the dinner table. It happens when we share the stories of the people that are impacted the most, so we can humanize it and realize that there are real people out there like Cheleta and Rafael and Marcus's and Craig's and Kelvin's. I'm super dope to share this experience, share this moment. But now I'll pass the mic over to Tara. Tara Libert, who's the Free Minds co-founder and executive director, who will share how this project came together, along with 5 of our contributors. Toney Lewis Jr., who's a community activist and author of Slug, A Boy's Life in the Age of Mass Incarceration. If you hear my dog in the background, not one of the panelists, so just let her live. But we do have Guthrie Ferguson, who is a professor of law at American University and a former public defender. We got Jamila Hodge, who's the executive director of Equal Justice USA and a former prosecutor. I always love following Equal Justice USA on Twitter, so shout out to you guys. And Jonas, who is a Free Minds member and a book club facilitator. What I'm most pumped about is we got my boy Luis, who's joined us all the way from Mexico, and he's a Free Minds member and our Spanish translator. He also works as a full-time call center agent. Hey, Tara, thank you so much for having me. I'm passing the mic off to you.
Thank you so much, Marcus. I want to have Marcus on my phone every morning when I'm having a hard time getting out of bed, and just to hear him. Thank you. He's been an incredible Free Minds role model, friend, and just brings love and heart to everything. So we're so excited. This project has been 5 years in the making. It is a work of love and compassion, and I couldn't be more thrilled and have more honor to share the screen today with some of our powerful contributors. I'm just going to ask a very simple question and then have you guys share. Because I was so touched how deeply personal and emotional all of you were in your essays, in your conversations, in sharing with the public. And you really revealed a deep part of yourself. And it reminds us of our Free Minds, original Free Minds, Glenn McGinnis, who was just so open with his emotions and what he was going through as a 17-year-old on death row in Texas. And I just can't thank you enough. And I just want to start with you, Toney, and all of you. Why did you bare your heart so much? In your essay, you talk about losing your father to the system at the age of 9, how it's so hard to bring your own daughters to see him. He's still behind the walls, the mental, emotional trauma of your whole family. Why did you want to share that in the book?
I think it's important to be as transparent as possible. We live in a country where, 10 million children have experienced parental incarceration. So I thought it was important to speak for them, right? To speak, I'm a microcosm of those 10 million American children that have experienced a very similar situation. And I think it's important to the general public or people who may not be directly impacted in the way that I have been, to understand the humanity that exists, right? And that, because when we hear terms, whatever somebody, a guy or woman is considered to be a criminal, they go to prison, and strips them of all the other labels like mom, dad, uncle, aunt, granddad, grandma, friend, community member, so on and so forth. And so I thought it was important to do that, and just showing about the depths of the impact, right? So I went from being 9 to now 41. My father is still incarcerated. I'm a husband now, and I have 2 little girls that are now 8 and 5. And so, there's this generational piece that impacts communities like mine. And so, yeah, I just wanted to be as transparent as possible to have people really feel what people are going through.
Thank you, Toney. When you read his essay, you really will feel that. Andrew, I'll go to you now. Andrew has represented many of our Free Minds members over the many years as a former public defender in DC. And you share behind the scenes of a public defender, the heartbreak that you have to deal with the clients, the toll on public defenders. Why were you so open?
I mean, when you're a public defender, you walk in and you talk to your client who is at that moment at a place where society has turned their back on them. And so you open your heart and your arms and try to listen to their story and try to get some trust in it. And, I see Free Minds as doing the same thing. Free Minds walks into jail and opens their hearts and opens their arms and opens a book, and they get a story in return. And so when you all approached me to talk about what it was like and the heartbreak and the reality of representing human beings in a completely unjust criminal legal system, I wanted to tell that story. But moreover, I wanted to amplify the voices from inside. This book is their voices, not my voice. It's the voices of people who can teach others about how horrible the system is, how impactful it is to not just the people locked up, And, my hope for this book is that, the people on this call understand how bad it is, but the rest of America doesn't. And they need to have this book. Then this book needs to be bought and shared and pages ripped out and put on Instagram and the rest, so that the world can hear these voices. I'm here today because I was touched by those voices, and I can hear them, echo on now. I can hear the voices of my clients who I couldn't help, and I could hear the voices of my clients I did help. But other people need to hear those voices, and that's what this book does. It brings those voices and the community's voices to the fore. And so I'm just proud to have a little part in this wonderful story of a terrible story. That's the story of the American criminal justice system today.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I'm going to go to you, Jami, next. You part of the system too, and saw the brokenness, the oppression in the system, and you shared very revealing as a former prosecutor, and now a completely different life path. Why did you choose to partake?
No, so much of the reason for me is similar to what has been shared. When Marcus was talking about the importance of stories and understanding who people are. And for me, I took the role of being a prosecutor with eyes wide open. Like I knew that I thought taking the role that the system was broken, and knew that prosecutors were some of the most powerful actors. I thought it was important that someone who looked like me, I grew up in Detroit, I grew up working class, I'd seen the impact of the system on family members. And I thought it was important that someone like me have some of that power, be a decision maker. But it didn't take long for me to realize that the way the system operates is not about who, it's always about the what someone did to someone, what someone experienced in terms of harm. It's never about who that person was or who that person is or what led them to make these decisions, or trying to figure out the why to how we got here. And it didn't take long for me to realize that even trying to be, someone with some power, trying to bring a different perspective, I was just part of the machine that was, not making us safer, not serving victims and survivors, not focused on any type of healing or repair or real accountability. And so the opportunity that this book presents is to actually get to the who, to get to know the people who are impacted, the people who are involved. And I think, Brian Stevenson talks about this all the time, about the importance of proximity. It is through those stories, it is through the chance to understand the who that we then can be motivated to care, to want to do something differently than continue to do the same thing that isn't working.
Thank you so much, Jami. Now, the who, I'll go to Luis and Jonas, who are Free Minds members. We met them at 16, and they now help us with facilitating the book club. Luis, as Marcus says, joins us from Mexico. He was in the system and was deported after he served his time and had to make an entirely new life for himself in a country that he did not know anything about. And he's an incredible survivor and thriver. And Luis, in your essay, you talked about the incredible treacherous journey coming from El Salvador to find a better life, and then how it was just playing a game of soccer. You get pulled into the gang, and it's not a choice. It's not something you look for. And now you are here. What do you want all our audience tonight and the Free Minds family and everyone to read your story? And why did you share the real devastating things you've gone through? Oh, I think you're on mute, Luis.
Right. No, can you hear me?
Yep.
Right. Thank you for letting me share my story. Basically, I want people to actually see that life, as a Latino in Washington, D.C. is different. Like you said, it all started, with a simple soccer game. That's what I shared on the story as well. And I never planned for nothing to go the way, it did. Definitely was looking for a better life in the United States. Unfortunately, one mistake and everything went south after that. And I want people to know that although I didn't make the best out of the opportunities I had, I was working, with Free Minds gives me the power of being a voice as many other Latinos that can't share their stories or have not been heard yet. And then as you know, I'm here in Mexico, and it's very complicated. It's very complicated being released from prison after doing time, and coming to a different country is even hard. Right here, they don't consider me Mexican. In the States, I'm not American. And basically, I gotta make my way.
You're amazing, Luis. And you're still going through all that. He loves to write love poems. His chapter is about love. It helped him escape. You write about of what you were going through, and you just always bring us back to what it is, love. So thank you, Luis, so much. Yeah. And then I'm just gonna ask the first question to Jonas. Your essay, I have to say, was particularly really poignant and very, very difficult to read when you guys get the book, about being locked up and having another boy, being teen boys cry and scream in the cell, and you couldn't do anything about it. And then you began crying. Why did you want to recount that really traumatic moment for everyone?
I mean, I'm a poet, first and foremost. That's why I've been a part of Free Minds so long. So I wanted to express myself while I was sitting in the hole. That's where I was at when I wrote it. And that's some of the things that I saw and experienced while I was out there. And in that essay, like, I made the comparison to how some people explode. His rage was an outward expression of anger, frustration, whatever the case may be. And he banged and kicked and screamed and did what he did. Whereas though I was experiencing the same emotions, but I imploded because, some people like that. I don't show a whole lot of outward emotion in that same way. So I channeled that into that essay, and I wanted people to be able to see it, feel it, hear it. I wanted people to be able to experience it. So that was my goal, in expressing what I was feeling while I was in the hole myself.
Well, you definitely achieved that, Jonas. It was like we were there. Your powerful writing. I just want to remind everyone, if you have any questions for our amazing contributors, let us know. I just have one more question, and some of you have touched on this already, is, what do you want after someone reads these powerful essays and poems? Well, what can we do? What should we do? And what do you hope, after you have revealed this deeply personal experience of your life, which is a very brave and courageous thing to do, what is your greatest hope for the book? And I'll start with Toney again.
Well, I want to see action and movement, calls for policy and legislation change. I want to see people become more active in their own personal lives. I want people to start to write their incarcerated loved ones if they have them, right? I want people to try to adjust hiring policies. I want people to change housing policy. I just want people, I really ultimately want people to see individuals as citizens. And so with that, full rights restoration, so that people can, reach their fullest potential, and we can really impact this cycle of incarceration, not only here in DC, but all throughout our nation.
I love that, Toney. You are a man of action. That's what we love about the words into action. And so I know you guys have been doing some great comments in the chat about how poetry is such a way to get to the hearts and mind and mobilize people in another way. It's a very difficult political sphere and everything, but poetry and human stories really just cut through right there. So, and Mark is going to tell us about some other policy action at the end that we can do too. Andrew, what you shared a little bit about having the book, I think, in law schools and universities, anything else you want that we can do?
The legal system tries to strip the humanity out of what is happening in courts, and it does a very good job of ignoring the people who are there and the emotions and the community and the connections and the impact of convictions and incarceration beyond that moment in court. And the incarceration system does all too good a job of hiding the inhumanity of what happens in prison. And what this book does is it forces the humanity to the fore through stories, real stories that you cannot hide, real stories that make you confront how horrible prison is, real stories about how wrong it is to be incarcerated falsely or correctly for so much of your life. And it shows the connections that go out beyond the person to the courthouse, to the community, to the family, to the loved ones, and all of it. And we all need to share these stories. It's our obligation to share these stories and to get this book out in the hands of decision makers, the people who could change those laws that were just mentioned, into the hands of educators, into the hands of community members, into the hands of people in prison so they don't feel so alone. And like, that's on us. And we can do it, and we can share it, and we should, because it's important. And this book, through its artistry, through the photography that is beautiful, through the poems that are beautiful, and through the stories that are real, can help change that conversation. So I hope we can all come together to make that a reality.
I love that. Jami, I'm going to wait for you to the end because I know you have another really exciting way that we can all be involved. And I'll go to Luis. What would you like us? What can everybody who has this book that would make you feel really good?
Everybody that has this book, well, I feel good to know that they hear the stories of many of us, that we come from different backgrounds, and we all have things in common. You know, we've all been incarcerated. We all have dealt with, you know, what it is to be away from the family, to be part of the what the system does to us. You know what I mean? And how we are trying to get something back to the community by being a voice for all those that cannot be heard.
I love that, Luis. And as I say, he's a big part of our Spanish book club, Mentes Libres. And I'm just in awe of how many people, our members, endure this incredible inhumanity in the system and just are so passionately driven to give back. Like Luis, Jonas, all of the members. Jonas, what's your greatest hope? You wake up tomorrow and you say, this is what I would love this book will help to do.
I just hope that it plays its part in getting people to understand, you know, the inhumanity of prison. I mean, I think my goal and my hope is very similar to everybody else's on the call. Abolition, you know, I mean, I don't really think we need prisons. And even if we don't need nowhere near as many as we have, because I'm not all up on my abolition research or whatnot. I just feel like these stories will, you know, advocate for humanity for the people who are behind walls, and the collective conscious continues to move in the direction that it has been moving in the last 10 years. It's a slow progress, but it's steady. So I'm just hoping that it keeps pushing in the right direction.
I love how you say research. Jonas is amazing. The amount of books he's read, amount of research you've done, I'm sure you'll do it in a very, very short amount of time. What an incredible scholar. So Jami, I'm gonna go with you with your incredible work at Equal Justice USA. We had an amazing conversation about how Free Minds can partner with that, because our members, as we shared, always want to bring healing and another way outside of the system. If you can share about that.
Thank you, Tara. Even before getting to EJUSA, and I'm happy and excited to talk a little bit about that too. One thing that I hope the book will help people do is to learn more. I know for me, it really wasn't until I left the system that I began the journey of learning more about the history of how we got here. And I think once we learn about how we got here and understand that this system isn't broken. It's functioning exactly as it was intended. It was meant to control and oppress the formerly enslaved, and it continues to control and oppress Black people and marginalized communities. Then that requires something different of us. It's more than just trying to fix it or, remove a few bad apples. It's understanding that we're never going to get safety and healing and repair out of something rooted in racial oppression. It requires us to look to solutions and look to responses outside of the system. And I think that is what excites me so much about the work we're doing at Equal Justice USA. After decades of really leading in death penalty abolition work and death penalty repeal work, there was just an understanding that not only are there the racial disparities that were literally leading to the loss of lives, but that there's all these other ways that harm is happening because of the system's response and what happened, how people are treated in the system. And so that work led us to understanding that there are other ways, and they're not new ways. Restorative practices have existed since the indigenous populations in this country. These aren't solutions that we have to create. They exist. We just need to invest in them and elevate them instead of continuing to pour billions of dollars into a system that actually isn't doing the things it purports to do. So I just, would love for folks to follow us, check us out at ejusa.org, sign up and follow our work. And I'm just excited about, particularly in this moment, when we are reckoning with our history and understanding how we got here in ways that we really haven't seen before, that we have this real opportunity to invest outside of the system in the solutions that are community-led, community-driven, that center racial equity, and that actually get us the things that we need.
Thank you so much, Jamila. I think we have some minutes left to take some great questions from the audience. And one of them was, we know the system is broken, but is there any part of it that we can use to leverage those most seriously affected? I know we've had some policy changes in DC, had some people coming home. Is there anything? I mean, it's a big, long task, what you're suggesting, John. I mean, we have to keep working on it, but I want to ask any of you, is there anything that we can do now as we're, on two tracks working for that? I don't know, Andrew, if you want to take that, Jamie, to anyone can take it. You want to start us off, Andrew?
That's an awfully big question to how to reform the criminal justice system. I think that it'll take a small piece is we should stop charging juveniles as adults. I mean, that's an easy thing that can be done and should be done. And there's legislation in DC right now making that a possibility. And that's an easy thing, right? Children should not be charged as adults in criminal cases. They should not go to any form of adult prison. We probably should think about changing the age of what we think about as children. Even the age of 18 is pretty arbitrary. And so I think we really should start there. That's a small piece. There's so many other larger movement issues with abolition that's been talked about and it's been talked about in the chat that's real. And so many, major things. But I'll start with a small thing that is something that could be done. There's, better than I do, political movement afoot right now to change that in DC. And so let's make that happen.
Nice. Toney or Jonas, Luis, any of you guys have what you think with what we have now, what we should focus on?
I think we should, I kind of alluded to it earlier, but I do think we have to do record sealing. I think this will really have an impact, not only on reentry, but in terms of economic stabilization. I mean, we don't really talk about how people are almost relegated to poverty that have criminal histories based on what they can't do. And so, and if we allow people entry into all these different spaces, whether it's entrepreneurial or as far as employment, it also has an impact on those coming behind them and it stabilizes their community. And I think it'll be a great way to start to address poverty in our community, which is a major player in what people going down the road of criminality. So I would like to see that.
It's great. We know with our very robust reentry program, the collateral consequences, as they're called, of a felony record are just incredible, steep every day. We think we've, our members gotten over the hurdle, and then there's many, many more behind. And I think you're right about the economic equity, and it's just it needs to be done right away. I know we're running short on time. This beautiful one question, and then we'll get to all of the other ones at another. We have to have more of these great events. Is what inspires all of you? I know I'm inspired by you all. That's what inspires me, but we have a question from the audience. What inspires you? And also, actually, Luis and Jonas, if you can answer last, because how did you get through such those dark, dark periods and still have inspiration? In the beginning of our book, we write that the prison system has built walls in all of our imaginations, and we have to work together to expand our idea of what's possible. And all of you incredible change makers and hearts full of love are really helping that. But just to take us out, what inspires you? Start with Jami.
People inspire me, Tara. Just the resilience of what people go through, the trauma, the harm, but the ability to get back up and not be, laid out by life's experiences, by, so many things that are stacked against us systemically, particularly if you've been justice involved. So that resilience inspires me. And then just wanting, I have two girls who are 7 and almost 9. They inspire me to want this to be a different world for them, that, if they mess up, they make a bad choice, that someone will see them as the beautiful young girls they are, beautiful women they will be, and not just as, what they've done. So they inspire me, and then the resilience of so many who continue to get up in spite of what is done to them.
Wow. I'll give it to you, Toney. Your middle name is Resilience. What inspires you?
I just feel I wake up every morning feeling like the luckiest man alive, and I feel like I wasn't spared for no reason. Like, my people inspire me. Like, I have to try to do my part, and I've just been incredibly blessed in every interaction that I've been able to have in this space, not just being impacted by it in terms of like my father going to prison, or my uncles, my cousins, my friends, but also in being a practitioner at this point, and just having so many interactions with people returning, and the blessing they've been to my life and helping me become the best me. So every day I just, I'm motivated to try to get that back, and so, and it's an honor to be here and to always collaborate with you guys and what you're doing, because it's some of the most important work being done. And I mean that. So thank you.
I love it. The family. Andrew.
I promise this wasn't a setup, but you inspire me. I've known Free Minds a long time. When I was a public defender, there'd be 2 women who'd show up to court every time for my clients. No one else would necessarily show up, maybe some family members, but Tara and Kelly would show up, and they'd show up again, and they'd show up again, and they were always there. And that commitment and love was the trust that caused young men, when they came back after serving their term, to come right back to Free Minds and begin again with Free Minds, because it was family. And it is wonderful to have a book launch. It's a terrific book filled with art and poetry and the rest of it. But that's the fun part. The hard part is like setting up the visits in jail, or coordinating another group, or dealing with the frustrations of the Bureau of Prisons, or the heartache of losing a member, which happens. And you and others, and Julia and others who in this community, have really inspired everyone around you. You do this every day. You do it without much pay. You do it with love, and you do it in a way that we all owe you an incredible debt to keep this family and this community together. We need to get more books so more people can read and understand, the community you built around you, and how it's sort of trickling out, not just in DC, but to all the jails and all the prisons and all the places. And it's just inspiring. You're an inspiring person. And so I thank you for that. I know you didn't want me to say that, but it's true. And now everyone gets to hear it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. No, what is really inspiring is Free Minds is this community of support with so many people, and the Free Minds members that are leaders. We call them readers, leaders, writers, fighters for justice, that are the future of Free Minds. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And Jonas, who helps co-facilitate the book club, who really, I just see such a bright future of this network of support. What keeps you going every day, Jonas?
Memory of my mother, for real. My mother was and is special to me. So every decision I make, I think about it like, would my mother approve? Would she be proud? You know what I mean? Knowledge of self, you asked the question earlier of what helped me get through that 17 and a half years. And it was really studying myself, introspection, excuse me. Reflection, and really just making a decision to be better, be different, regardless of my outside circumstances. So those things inspire me, and art and people. You know what I mean? I'm a people watcher. I'm an introvert. I like to observe and learn. I'm a student of life, so I'm just inspired by life as an artist. I can spark some inspiration from anywhere. So
I love that. Jonas lost his mother while he was still inside, like so many of our members, and it's just absolutely devastating. I just lost my father this week. I know he's here with us, but I was able to hug him and be with him like so many of our members cannot. And it's really a brutal thing. And we know their legacy, their spirit is with us tonight in this beautiful gathering. I'm gonna leave it with you, Luis, who is our artist, our poet, our man of love. What inspires you all the time?
But what inspires me is, what inspired me to write in prison about love is because love doesn't exist in prison. Many people turn their back on us. You know, time takes a lot from a lot of your loved ones. You know, move on with their lives, and pretty much emotions are not to be shown in prison. So it kind of motivated me to write about love. I mean, because we may not show the emotions while we're incarcerated, but they're always there. You know, but that's what inspired me to write about love where love doesn't exist. You know, and it's definitely not shown. That's one of the main things that inspired me to write about love. And that's what keeps me going nowadays. You know, I was incarcerated, you know, as you know, I met many people doing life, and they always used to tell me, when you get out, make it count, make a difference. And that's what I'm doing. Just making it count, making a difference, and trying to share my story with the rest of the world. And it was through you, Free Minds, that family, entire family of Free Minds, that I was able to express myself. So I would like to thank you all, everyone that is part of Free Minds, for letting us, everyone, share our stories and let our voice be heard.
Luis, thank you. What a gift you are to this world. What a gift everyone is. And on that note of love, I'll send it to our man of love, Marcus. Thank you all.
Oh my goodness, Tara. Oh my goodness, panelists. You guys, I mean, how do you not leave this feeling incredibly inspired? I mean, I love how inspired I feel every time I'm around the Free Minds family, but there's something about sharing those stories about, you know, it's interesting because we have these different perspectives. Thank you so much, Andrew and Tony. And I mean, like, these different perspectives were incredible. I love that we talked a lot about action and things that we can do moving forward. You know, we all have these amazing feelings when we come to these kinds of events, but I know that we're all looking for something to do now, to act. And I want to be able to make sure that I give you all the opportunity. I know that I'm ready to take action, and I hope that you all at home are just like me and ready to shout to the mountaintops about this incredible book. It's so important to not only get the stories of the people that are in these cells out here into the world, but what I think that's interesting is I can remember my friends who I sat in a cell with that were blessed to be a part of some kind of publication where they were able to walk around a prison rec yard and call themselves published artists. Like what that did for them,
Oh,
my
had us
goodness,
on the
I'm
edge
so
of our
glad.
seats.
Oh my goodness. I was going so, it was happening. I got too excited and too pumped. Oh my gosh. Well, look, now I was cut to the chase. Essentially, I want to make sure that we all have an opportunity to be able to be a part of this inspiring work. So if you're still here with us now, I would love for you to please hit that green button at the bottom of your screen to order a few copies of this book. We want to permeate this messaging and give these opportunities for our writers to be able to spread this incredible message of love and resilience across the country. And if you want to support our work with other incarcerated and formerly incarcerated young people, I would love for you to hit the donate button at the bottom of your screen. And remember that literally every single dollar counts. 5, 100, 500, 1,000. We all need your support and we're grateful for it. Our goal is to get this book into the hands of as many college students, law students, homes, schools, high schools, middle schools. And we want to get them to as many people as possible so that we can actually make change. We want to actually help really repair harm that was done in the community. And this is a great way to take action and do that. The only way to build something better is to listen and hear from those who have firsthand experience with, especially when they're dealing with our current criminal justice system. This book does exactly that. If you're a teacher, we would love for you to be able to bring the Free Minds Poet Ambassadors into your classes. While all of you others that are on here that may have will look for a different experience, we want you to share this work with your colleagues and your faith communities. In fact, I definitely want to take a moment to thank Emilio Sanchez, the CFP at Morgan Stanley, for sponsoring 100 copies of this book for schools and youth groups. Now, for real, in any other environment, I'll be doing some kind of dance and like doing it, but you can't see me do my dance. So I'm just gonna say thank you so much, Emilio, for making that contribution. You all can also be sponsors too and help bring this book to even more young people. You can either become anywhere from a chain sponsor, from anywhere between $250 to $1,000, all the way to an empowerment sponsor, where $5,000 can fund 500 books that we share with 1,500 students in 25 schools and youth detention centers. $5,000 gets 500 books. I mean, this is incredible, and I'm excited for all you empowerment sponsors. If you have any questions about how to order books, donate to Free Minds, please feel free to throw them in the chat as our team members are monitoring and can reply to you very, very quickly. I also wanted to be able to make sure that you knew about an amazing way that you can make real direct change here in DC, as they're a bill that's working on keeping young people out of the adult system. So I would love for you to sign on to that petition. We're placing that in the chat as well. And if you want, please click there now, few clicks, a couple of keystrokes, and you're helping out in a monsterful way. Thank you all again. I'm super grateful to be here tonight with you guys at Free Minds. And remember, when you hear me, you hear us. I'm super pumped. Thank you for all of you guys behind the walls. We hear you and we believe in you. We all still here with you, even though you still sit in that room. Good night, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us.